Day 2 of the Champions Chess Tour finals, and what a day it's been. Wesley tries to kiss Kaya.
He has been
Gucci Reza onlooking in his $2,000 Versace shirt, suave as ever.
peeking. Wesley no peeking.
And after the kiss rejection, Wesley drawing cats on his board in a final bid for Kaya's attention.
Let's see it. Show it to the camera. So we do have 929.
So more on that one later, but now let's get to the chess. We're catching up with Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. They couldn't be separated in their 2 rapid games, so they go to an Armageddon, and this is the footage of them putting in their bids.
Turn your boards. Let's see it. Magnus. Oh, 15 minutes. I guess that means you win it. 9 minutes 40 seconds.
So Magnus playing with white, he must win. But the most surprising thing about that whole process is Norwegian-born Kaya openly showing her support for the GOAT, Magnus Carlsen.
Oh!
So on to the chess. Hikaru with black, and after Magnus goes e4, Hikaru goes for the rock-solid Petrov, or Russian defense here. Magnus takes the pawn. Look at the times on the left, by the way. So Hikaru's already like 5 minutes down. And now here, the main move is d6. You kick the knight back. Then you take the pawn, but Hikaru takes immediately the Damiano variation, and it's a gambit because after queen e2 you can't move the knight or all sorts of nasty stuff happens here, but this is the move. And this is how the line goes. After the piece drops, you can't save your own knight, the queen's going to drop, you get something like this, and black's going to try and win back that pawn. Whole other game. f6 can come, bishop g4, etc. But Magnus doesn't go in for the gambit. He just kicks back the knight. He wants to play this rock solid, steady position, just try and squeeze Hikaru. And one of these guys plays an incredible accuracy percentage in this game. Just nuts. But I will not reveal it. It's high quality from both players. So the bishops develop. Both kings castle. Magnus goes bishop f4, rook e8. Big battle for this e5 square. We get rook e1 played, c5, and now how many of us are doing something passive like pawn c3? Not the way to go. Black gets knight c6, equalizing. So Magnus goes knight c3. Great move, because if captures, which wasn't played, then you go knight b5. You're hitting the bishop, it can't stay on the diagonal. If you take, bishop recaptures, white's doing fine, you're going to recoup the pawn with a good pawn structure, and if you jump away trying to do something like this, well, it's no good. There's these amazing tactics, you know, all sorts of stuff going on. I'll quickly show you this main line. This is how the game could go. White's doing good with this knight about to land here, etc. So taking not so hot. We see c4 from Hikaru, closing the structure. Magnus remaneuvers the bishop. Knight c6, bishop f3, targets the backwards d5 pawn, bishop e6 covers, all very natural. Magnus activates the queen, always connect your rooks, and now bishop e7 from Hikaru, strange little tuck back, nudgy move. You know, the bishop looked active there, maybe he didn't want to leave it unprotected, prepare queen b6. Either way, Magnus now changes the pawn structure with b3, so we'll never know Hikaru's follow-up plan if Magnus played slowly with h3. Because after captures, pawn recaptures, now the bishop bounces out to these newly weakened dark squares. Good play by Hikaru. Magnus goes knight d3. Very important move to challenge this strong piece before black can bring more firepower down here. So we get bishop takes on c3. It is the best way to go. If you dropped back to a5, knight c5 comes and these points start getting very sensitive. So the queen recaptures. Bishop g4, Hikaru trading pieces, a set of rooks, now a set of bishops come off. How is Magnus going to get anything from this game? Well, this is a weak pawn. It's what he's trying to play for. You know, white can always defend their central pawn. Rook e1 played, the queen now moves, h3, kicks the knight back, and now knight b4, looks for pressure here, looks for pressure here. What's Magnus got planned? Because Hikaru lands knight e4 in response. It's the top engine move, and what do you do with this queen? You know, you can't retreat here. You have to keep tabs on the knight. Well, this is where Magnus has got a brilliancy planned. The move he plays here, excuse me, is knight takes on c6. And this was the picture from the thumbnail, I think. I sometimes play with thumbnails, but I think this is the one I was showing. Now, this is a nice idea, because if the knight captures here, then you're prepared to land this check. The king goes, you take here, rook recaptures. Now this is the top engine line, but Hikaru rejected it, I'm sure, because after check, the king is forced back. You know, you can't step to the e-file, and then rook e7. Who goes for this? The white piece is invading. Rook on the 7th. Looks horrible, but it was actually the way to go for black, because f6 played, and it's just a nice quiet waiting move. Takes away bishop e5. And if you capture the pawn, the point is that black's got huge counterplay. Check, this one drops, plus the rook's here. And this is the problem. Even if you don't take this pawn and you try and play something else, king f1, well then knight b5's coming. You hit bishop, you hit pawn. This one's open here. b6 comes if you go bishop c5, etc. This was the way to go for an equality. But Hikaru takes like this, and it just gives Magnus a small edge. But Hikaru, a tenacious defender. Do not assume the result of this one. We get queen a5 played. Pawn h5 now from Hikaru. Ambitious move. h6 may be more prudent. We get f3 played, drives back this knight, and rook e5. Magnus re-coordinating the rook and queen, swapping them around. Beautiful chess. Queen d7 played, queen e1, rook e8, Hikaru surely just trading the pieces, but now queen h4 from Magnus, pressuring this pawn which was weakened earlier. Can Hikaru hold on? And if you're enjoying this game, do please hit that like button. Hugely helps me out. And don't forget to subscribe. You're more likely to become a grandmaster in roughly 3 to 4 weeks if you hit that button. Now back to the game, we get rook e6. Hikaru trying to activate, cover some sensitive points. Magnus goes queen g5, and there is so much pressure here. You know, if you play a waiting move like pawn a5, top engine move, then you can capture this rook, queen recaptures, and bishop e5. And you're threatening to eliminate this and then pick up a pawn. And obviously g6 doesn't work, or you lose a piece. Tons of pressure. But this was a better try, because after knight e8, then when the pawn drops, well, at least you've actually saved that knight on the board, and the king isn't vulnerable on the dark squares. But what we see in the game is pawn g6. The computer hates it, because after captures, queen captures, there's bishop e5. And this move is no good. You're now in an eternal pin. These pawns start rumbling, and you can actually just drop back. g5's coming. What to do? The piece is dropping. So we see the knight stumble back. Queen h6 played, looking for a checkmate. Look at this piece, it's an absolute monster now. So f5 played to give the king a square. We see check, king f7, now another check, and Magnus just swipes off the a pawn. A pawn to the good, but still with a monster minor piece. So knight f6 played, queen c7, target c6, keeps this queen honest in the defense. We see rook e8 played, king e8 just transformed into a rook. King h2, Magnus loves a bit of king safety. And now look at Hikaru's clock. He's got 44 seconds. He spends about 30 seconds on pawn h4. He's now got 15 seconds to make 23 moves, because this is move 37. They don't get some increment until move 60. So this is just pure bullet chess, but over the board. How are you going to survive? These queens now come off the board, but still Magnus's pressure persists. Bishop g5 threatened, so knight h7 played. The bishop back to d2, spinning round. Look at Hikaru's clock. How is he holding this? f4 breaks up the pawns. Now bishop captures. King e6, king g1. Hikaru sending the pieces flying now. He puts this knight here, I think. Then readjusts it on Magnus's time. King f3. Look at the knight hopping. The pawn is covered. In marches the king. And here we see resignation. or Hikaru lost on time. I'm not sure which one. He couldn't even physically get the moves off, even if he could hold this game. And coming back here, he's lost on the board anyway. Even if you don't check and allow this, and you do something like this and this, well, g3, you're pinned, you know, more pawns dropping, more domination, it is game over. So Magnus takes down Hikaru. He is top of the table, as you can see here. And just to finish off the Wesley story, well, this was the final interview he had with Kaya. They look to be great friends. I think the cat picture has worked a treat. If in doubt, you just need to woo her with some Pictionary, right? And last but not least, Mr. 0%, Denis Lazovic, took down MVL. He's now known as Dennis the Menace because he's got some crazy good chess in the locker when he brings the heat. What a day of chess. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks a lot for watching and see you soon.